right. It's just you and me and how many ever people decide to join.
Yeah, awesome. So welcome everyone. This is a last minute pop-up, which is super exciting. And I've been bugging Jason a little bit with wanting to know more information around the technology that you've been involved in, and just really think it's a valuable topic to discuss with other things that come through. So Jason, I'll hand it over to you and we can start.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for asking the questions. They're always fun whenever people ask questions around these things, because when I create something, I just create it, set it aside, and then I go do the next thing. And oftentimes I don't create a manual on how to use that thing, because I assume everyone understands how to use that thing. And it's actually kind of fun because no one does. And then they message me and it's like, if you just written the manual, it would have been so much faster. So, one of these days I'm going to create a manual for things. It's going to be easier. But for now, I kind of like just creating something and letting people explore it and listening and learning what they found out. Because if I create something and I limit it by telling you what it does, then you're only going to think it does that thing, and it can do so many more things. So it's actually kind of fun to read what people decide to do, because sometimes there are things I've never even thought of doing, and I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. So it's actually kind of fun that way. I want to start off by just kind of saying, welcome to the jaw wave. We are now in it, and that means that we are now working with time. So you're going to notice that things are going to get really weird really fast, especially for all of August, just because August is us mastering and understanding and unlocking the universal center of time, which means that we are going to be working in like this more erratic fluctuation perspective at first, because learning to stabilize something means understanding its extremes. So that's going to be a very fun experience for people. Anyone that's never done coursework or never done activations or anything at all in that way of like expressing and working with time manipulation, be prepared to have some pretty interesting experiences. So that being said,
Jason,
August is a great month.
awesome. So can you explain just even that term time manipulation?
Yeah, so if time is data point ratio, right? And let's say that time is maybe, right now I think we're at like 204 or something like that, because we'll be at 205 by the first. So let's just say we're at 200 to make life easy for me. So we're at 200 data points, which means that the mind is no longer applying logic to the world as it works in the way that it used to. So in other words, the mind used to be the tool that explained everything in reality. But at 200 points, the mind is removed from being able to explain it at reality. So because we're at the precipice of it, and this is important because at 200 is the line. So anything 199 below, so you're only getting 1 point right now. Well, technically you're getting 4 points right now, but in this example, you're getting 1 point right now that your mind can't handle, which is great because that's a slow, steady change. So now you, as a spiritual being, are beginning to process outside of your mind as well as inside of your mind. So you're now starting to see two different ways to look at something. It's creating a distinction between reality, and it's slowly going to separate. So anything over that 200 mark is just going to keep going towards you, the spiritual being, versus you, the mind. Mm-hmm. And each time it does that, it's going to create more of a distinction between the two until eventually you'll be able to see the mind as a tool and not the mind as yourself. You see, as long as we identify as ourselves, with the mind being ourselves instead of something greater than the mind, aka we're playing a video game that is, and this is my avatar that is known as Jason. If I play that game, reality becomes manageable. Reality becomes something that I can actually work with. But if I play the game that everything that happens to this character is all that I am, this body is everything that I am, and when this dies, it's over, then all of a sudden reality isn't manageable because everything has too much weight. You begin to value the world more than you value yourself. And when you value the world more than you value yourself, the world becomes a force in your life instead of an influence. Imagine that you could walk through the world and witness the magic of the world and have a choice to play in it. Imagine that world, because that's the world we're going to be coming into by the end of this year. And that's one of the reasons why I don't really worry about what's happening on the world stage, because it's just influences. It's just choices being bounced around. There are certain times that we need to be aware of things so that we can accept them and work through them, which I'll post stuff from time to time about that kind of stuff. And it triggers people and it's always fun because then we get to discuss and work through those things together until we come to an understanding. Not necessarily an agreement because we don't have to agree, but an understanding of something, a unification of something. Because everyone's point of view is relevant and perfect. There's nothing wrong with that. It's whenever you try to make your point of view someone else's point of view that big problems occur. So understanding how time manipulation works. You're in coursework right now. So when you take the silent observation practice and you actually go out into the world, you are the strongest force in the world at that moment. So everything becomes an influence for you because you're observing. And because of the container, it's actually separating you from your mind so that you can actually see the mind as a tool. And each time that you do that, you create this pause between. And that pause between gives you more and more choice until ultimately you get more and more of that. That's time manipulation. Because whenever you go into a higher ratio than what your mind can handle, or you angle the ratio at your mind versus you angle the ratio at your spiritual being, which again, coursework does that same thing. The whole principle of why we designed coursework the way we did was so that you could condense 30 years worth of information into a single level. So you going through, and it can take anywhere between 6 to 12 months to go through a level, that's 30 years of information, as if you had been meditating for 30 devout years.
Wow.
That's time manipulation or time magic.
Sure. Why 30 years, Jason?
It's just the number that came out to be.
Okay.
I don't know why it ended up being 30 years either. I've always wondered that. But as you go to the different levels, some of them are longer than 30 years, some of them aren't. But basic level is 30 years. So it's 30 years of information applied to a part of you that very rarely ever gets worked with. Whenever you meditate, you go into something called the time stream, which is something that your mind can't go into, right? Because your mind is a tool. So what happens in coursework is you're constantly in the time stream. And then you come out of the time stream, then you come into the time stream. And so you begin to separate the two realities within yourself so that you can begin to make choices of which reality to approach with. So that's one of the reasons why the coursework is so powerful, is it's designed specifically to feed you the spiritual being and your divinity so that you can see the personality structure that is. You can also see the entities that run the game. And you can begin to go, oh, okay, well, I don't need this anymore because it doesn't make sense. And you can go, oh, I can see where I can tweak this now. So this personality structure, this lens for reality doesn't have this corruption that it once did, because you can see the totality of the game. And that's kind of what time manipulation does, or what I call time magic, because it sounds cooler.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think too, Jason, you know, there's a negative connotation sometimes around using the term entities. And since I've been doing the coursework, wow, what a powerful thing to be aware of. Like, and I think I did a message you around, you know, just a different sequence of words that I was saying that kind of jumped in, and being aware of that. And I mean, I love it. It's just amazing. It's just made such a significant difference already to the way I approach and think and observe.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just for anyone that hasn't watched the entity video, just so you guys know, entities are literally something that holds your responsibility for you until you are responsible enough to reclaim it. So when I talk about entities, I'm not talking about demons and all this other stuff that everyone else likes to play with. I'm simply referring to something that is holding your responsibility for you until you are ready to be responsible. So an example would be a credit card. When you hire a credit card company to handle your responsibility for you, that is an entity, that credit card company. That's why we actually call companies, when you form one, an entity. Like, the words are here. So it's just really about paying attention to how those words are used. I'm an entity to anyone that's watching this. You're an entity to anyone that I'm talking to, right? Because you're not me, so you cannot be me. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the entity perspective. That's saying, hey, if I talk to you, then you're something other than me. And in that exchange, we can learn something, we can see something. Now, again, this is referring into the physical plane. I'm not referring into outside of physical time and space, because that's a whole different game that we don't really have time to talk about today, because it would be like 60 hours worth of talking. So ultimately, what I'm talking about is in this moment right now, where we currently are as people, there are entities that are currently in this game. And there's nothing wrong with those entities. They're simply there. Again, you can make them wrong. You can empower them over what they're worth, and then they become wrong for you. But ultimately, they're just beings helping you in some way, some form or fashion. Even saboteurs, which is one of the most annoying of the entities, is still just doing what it was told to do. So when you no longer need to be sabotaged, you can communicate with this entity and say, hey, I don't need this saboteur anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and claim responsibility for my power that you're keeping me from maintaining. And I'm going to integrate it. And all of a sudden, the saboteur entity goes, thank you, I'm out, bye. And then it leaves because it doesn't need to be there.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's a great video. I watched it recently as well. So yeah, really helpful. Jason, can we talk about some of the technology? I know you've had there's posts on your wall around the PNR, the personal nexus realities, and the source seeds. And I know there's been a lot of, you've got the FAQ document as well, and there's some information on source seeds floating around as well. But it'd be really great. Could you explain what Nexus is? So
Yeah.
what because I still get confused around whether it's just the holding of your space. Like I wouldn't know how to explain it. So it'd be great if you which means I don't understand it. So it'd be great if you could explain what Nexus is and just any information that comes through in regards to that.
Cool. Yeah. So first, I'm going to go ahead and preface this by saying that this is not in any way a medical or a scientific thing. I'm not making any claims at all. I'm talking about observational research, what I've personally witnessed and what I've read from other people's testimonies. I have to say that legally because our lawyers are very clear on that. So now you all know that I'm not making any claims. I'm simply acknowledging what I've personally seen and what I've witnessed in other people's testimonies. So that being said, Nexus to me, my own definition of it, is different than most people's. When I enter a space, I enter a nexus, right? That's a form of container. So when you go to a pub, you're entering a nexus, and it's called a shared reality. So if you enter a nexus, and that nexus's reality says that the most that you're allowed to process is 20% of the space's value, then no matter how high you are, when you enter that space, you're up against the nexus's rules. This is one of the reasons why in the war back in 2008 and all the way from then to the 80s was a really crazy time on this planet, because you had these things that I called shadow dens, which were nexus realities that had very high chaotic value. And so you'd go in and you would be at war with yourself because you would have to process at the rules of the nexus. So a lot of people who went to clubs and rave environments and they saw all these things happening, you got to witness that firsthand. There was some pretty rough times back then. That's ultimately where nexuses come from. And this can happen anywhere. So like you can go into someone's house and based on the laws of that house, it affects you. So when you go to a restaurant, same thing. Every time that you're not outside, you're in a nexus. Outside is also a nexus, but it's usually the nexus's guidelines are more around the leader of the planet at the time. So it's usually a very safe space in comparison. Now cities are nexuses as well, because it's a shared group. So it's basically a collective conscience's belief around something set by whoever the owner of the space is.
Jason, so when you say owner of the space, if someone was renting and they didn't own the house, how does that?
You're not the owner of the space then.
Also, so it's, wow. Okay.
Yeah, whenever I worked on my house, I had to actually buy my house outright to get it to the level I wanted to get it at. Because every time I would grid it, it would then fall apart. And I was getting really annoyed at that. And I couldn't figure out why. And I was like, I own the mortgage on that house. I don't understand why this is the way that it is. And then I realized that there was still a little weave of the code that wouldn't allow me to do what I wanted. Now, as I began to pay more towards my house, I began to do more because I owned more of the house, which meant that my value was more in it than their value was more in it. And as I began to make more payments, I began to enjoy making payments because I began to watch what value did. So renting is a dangerous thing in that way, because you're never actually going to be owning the value of the house. You're only going to be owning the value of whatever you contractually agreed to. And that's a whole nother game. It's one of the reasons why I think that renting is a thing. And for those of you that are renting, it doesn't mean that you are screwed or anything like that. You're still able to change your reality. You're still able to keep it clean. You're still able to upkeep it on a whole lot of levels. It's just creating foundational material inside of it is much more difficult. So you can't get the same experience. It's one of the reasons why whenever I go on tour and I travel to locations and I want to do my workshop, I have to be very clear on who owns the space that I'm going to be renting from, because their level of ethics and standards actually causes me to not be able to go as high as I want sometimes. But I'm very fortunate that I keep finding really amazing places to do workshops and classes, or I'll just do it outside because outside always works.
Wow. Does that mean that the bank has some ownership of that as well then if you have your, yeah.
So Wells
Wow.
Fargo used to own my house.
Oh, you've just frozen there a bit, Jason. We've
And
lost you. Oh, there
I'm
you
not
go.
going to say anything negative about Wells Fargo. They were an entity that was there when I needed internet connection unstable. Awesome. Anyway, you didn't hear what I said, right?
No.
Okay. What was the last part you heard?
Just the name of the bank.
Okay, yeah. So that's going to be why it stopped me. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there and say that ultimately, when something owns the thing that you're a part of, that is an entity, and that entity has value in the thing that you own. So if you create a shared partnership, it's one of the reasons why we're very careful when we invest with a different company, is we want to invest in things that have the same ethics and standards, or at least something that we can work with. Because if the ethics and standards of a company are different and you enter into that, your value is now in that exchange and it will push up against those people. I've seen tons of companies that I've allied with fall apart immediately because the moment that I ally with them, the ethics and standards that I play at and the value that I hold affects that container. And if they choose to do something unethical in that level, it falls apart. In fact, whenever we ally with companies, we always tell them, we say, hey, look, if we join your company, anything that's unethical is going to be exposed. Are you okay with that? And they're like, oh, absolutely. It's going to be totally fine. And then they find out that it wasn't necessarily totally fine. And that's how you find out whether someone's really worthy of staying or not. Because if they are willing to work on what isn't fine when they're shown, then that's awesome because that's everyone's not perfect. None of us are. We're all broken, right? So to be able to see that brokenness and evolve faster is an incredible thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the PNRs, then Jason, you can attune them to yourself, and then that allows you to hold your nexus in the space.
No matter where you go.
Okay.
So this is why it's helpful for people that are renting. If you have the personal nexus reality and you're wearing it, meaning that it's on your person, you can have a necklace, you can do whatever you want with it, just don't drill a hole in it, basically. Whenever you're in that state, no matter where you go, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's outside, nothing changes. You still have the same value that you once had. So the Nexus rules don't apply to your Nexus. And that's an incredible thing. That's the reason why I spent 5 years on it, was because in order to exist in this world at the value that I had gained, it wasn't possible to play in other people's Nexuses in the way that I wanted to without really extreme consequences. So then working with the PNR actually made that a possibility for me. I began to be able to go outside and play with people, and it was just it was a lot more fun that way.
Okay. Can you increase your nexus, your personal nexus yourself?
Yes, the more value that you are, the more value that you gain. The PNR actually is something called divine intelligence. It actually holds the mirror of your divinity in form. So what happens is as you evolve and are able to handle more of who you are, the PNR updates, it upgrades. Now there are PNR updates on Activation Station as well. However, that's not necessarily required. That's a choice. Those are radical updates to unlock certain areas of your field so that you have more value in yourself. But ultimately, as you play with your PNR, it is going to level up with you. It'll level up until you don't need it anymore. That's the coolest part about it, is everything I design is designed specifically so that it frees you to a point that you don't need it anymore. Every technology. Because there's a point in all of our consciousness where we've reached the level that we don't need tools anymore. And each person gets to choose whether that's in front of you in this moment or not. That's the beauty of all the technology. It just creates choices. And that's important for everyone to hear, because I don't think that the PNR is for everyone on this planet. In fact, I don't think that I could create a PNR for everyone on this planet, since I hand code them. They take about 30 minutes a piece. So that will never be the case. And I don't want it to be the case. But if it's in front of you to use this tool right now, then cool. That's the best way to look at tools and technology is this in front of me? And if it isn't, that's not that you're bad or that you're worse or that anything, just that you're different. And there's nothing wrong with being different in that moment. And someday it may be in front of you. And someday it may not be in front of you anymore if you already own them. Always do what's right in front of you as best you can, and work with the tools that you have so that you can move forward faster and help everyone else move forward faster. But again, it's up to you to know what tools are for you, because everything in this world can be harmful to your process. Even the greatest thing that you know of can be harmful to your process if you use it out of sync with who you are.
Awesome. Jason, now can you explain how it works? So I know it uses EMFs, is that right?
It
Or can do?
So
and yeah.
It has a negative ionic charge that has been subspaced so that it creates biophotons instead. The biophotons then fill the programming. So on the back of the PNR coin, you actually see something called the impossibility codex, which is an infinite time codex, so that it actually holds infinite time. Then it uses those biophotons to flood into the infinite time, and as it does, it expands because it's creating a bubble of infinite time. In that space of the bubble of infinite time, your divinity is able to sit because your divinity is outside of time. So the only way to actually make it possible to interface divinity into reality is in a nexus of its own, a nexus that has its own rules and that it has its own engagements, which is what the PNR does. And so then it creates a biophotonic field of your divinity around you, allowing you to interface with your divinity in real time. So it's kind of like it removes the buffering issues that you would normally have, which is why when you meditate, you usually get way more out of meditation. When you're in the world, you get more from each interaction, more depth, more dimensionality. That's because the interfacing. So if I have to interface to, let's say, a satellite, let's say that's up in the sky, right? There's a delay, right? We call that lag or latency. Well, that's the same thing that happens with your divinity when you're trying to interface from inside of time to outside of time. So what I did was I tried to create less of that interference so that you would get more of a pure message.
Wow, that's amazing. And so in regards to children, so I have one for my daughter, but I haven't attuned it to her. So she's 4. She loves the impossibility codex. Like she flips it and has that on display all the time. Yeah. I will attune it to her and I can, but so in regards to the nexus of our own, like how do we, for children 3 and under, or like, can we hold space for them?
Well, you don't actually need to. That's the beauty. Kids under the age of 7 don't necessarily need their nexus because they actually have what is a divine nexus built in. If you're under the age of 7, you have something called divine protection. Every child that is ever born has this. And divine protection is the ability to interface with their divinity at a much higher level. But at the age of 7, for whatever reason, it begins to tick down. And then by the age of 14, it's usually that their divinity is harder to connect to. And I don't understand really, other than like a chemical value. I think that's what happens is the chemistry changes. This is something I'm definitely going to study as I, have more free time. But we all know that that's probably not happening soon. That being said, what I found is that around the age of 7 is when things really change for a young human. And those little people that are in their process, that's when I think the PNR token is probably one of the greatest tools because it allows them to maintain that same level that they had prior.
Wow.
Now, that being said, the PNR before the age, all it does is like if you're not attuning it, you're just creating a biophoton generating effect for them. That's amazing. That's giving them a resource they didn't have so that they can create the perfect body for them and take on less density and less damage so that when they do get to 7, they're actually primed and ready for a much easier journey. And then obviously they can attune it if they want, whenever they want. So you can do that at the age of 3, 5, whatever. It's not that hard at the attunement process. So ultimately, it's really up to you as the parent, because you as the parent are the one that's in charge. And however you choose to do it, it's fine. I've actually had people ask me if it's safe with infants, and they just stick the PNR in the cradle underneath the baby blanket. And it's amazing what it does. It helps them sleep better. They feel more at home and safe because it's the same frequency as heaven that's being generated. So they actually remember more. Their bodies are able to heal faster. I mean, it's a pretty incredible stuff that it can do.
Yeah, incredible. Jason, can we talk now about the source seeds?
Yeah.
So again, like how they work, and
I'm a bit more complex. I'll try.
Yeah.
I'll try. So the source seeds are how do I say this? So it's like a ceramic value that has magnetic properties. So it's basically ceramic that's been imbued with magnetic properties. So that magnetic property is something that causes this to happen. And that's important because in order to weave time through it properly, you need to have some form of magnetics. So if I want to create an eight-dimensional solid state reality within a device, I have to be able to weave 144 layers of time within it in a way that the standing waves are stable enough that it can actually appropriate the field. So that's very hard to do. For anyone that's ever done this, you understand what I'm talking about. For those of you that you're just like, don't worry, you don't actually need to know anything.
Yeah.
All you need to know is that it's an eight-dimensional source seed. So the entire premise and purpose of it is that it gives off an eight-dimensional frequency. So whenever it's added to things, I personally love to put it in my water. I'm not allowed to tell you guys to put it in your water, but I can say that I personally do put it in my water and I enjoy it quite often because what it does for me is it actually cleans up all the way up to the eighth dimension in the water, which allows me to bless it even stronger, creates a very stable frequency. For me, the water almost feels wetter. Another thing is it's almost more liquidy. I don't know how else to say it other than that. It's a softness to it. It tastes different. For me, it's an incredible thing with water. I also love putting them in my hot tub, my swimming pool. Those are like incredible. And if you don't own a swimming pool, like I don't own a swimming pool, I actually have them in my swim trunks in one of my pockets. I'll stick a source seed in, so when I get in the pool, it updates the entire pool while I'm swimming, and then when I leave, it gives everybody the opportunity to go back to a normal swimming pool. But ultimately, what it's doing is it's generating biophotons, and if you do it properly and you cover the water, and the reason you want to cover the water is because that actually creates a feedback of those biophotons so that it can't escape. So then it starts to suspend them, and the molecules become saturated in them. And so instead of the molecules pushing them out, they begin to spin in the molecules. And so then it actually creates a generator in itself. So that's pretty cool. When you drink the water, you're actually filling yourself with the bioavailable resource of biophotons, which coolest part about biophotons is they literally are the resource for everything. So if you're sick, you're low on biophotons. You might be low on minerals and nutrients as well, but biophotons can become those things if your field has studied them enough. So this is what's so cool about that is like, imagine that you have living light that is flowing through you constantly, which you do energetically, but physically as well. So now you're teaching your body how to connect to that living light better. And that's what the Source Seed's purpose is. It's one of the reasons why we're going to be doing the Crystallized Root Initiative in November, where we plant 1 million trees with source seeds all over the world. And that's going to be incredible because that will actually help teach the trees to run a completely different current. I was just telling Natasha about this earlier, but we got our first harvest and it was like 3 times the size of what it should be because we use energized water using the GoPro. And this will be available eventually, but it was so insane. Like we just keep getting more and more cantaloupe and more cantaloupe. We're going to be giving them to the homeless because we have so much cantaloupe now. But it created more. And the cool part about it was once they were breaking off the vine, usually they start to die. And usually within like 8 days, you can't eat the cantaloupe anymore. Well, the cantaloupe I cut open 2 weeks ago is still just as fresh as it was the day before because the living light that's built into it from the molecules is still there. So it's still healthy, it's still good. And this is kind of the world that we're moving into. We're beginning to understand that energy as a component to things is part of what we've been missing. Nature has its own energy. Well, what we can design has its own energy as well. And they don't have to compete with each other. For the longest time, we thought that we knew better than nature, and we stopped working with nature. All the technology I design is working with nature instead of against it. That's why biophotons, right? Like if your house was designed properly, biophotons would flow through your house and you would stay healthy longer. But it's not designed properly. The current in your house actually kills the biophotons so that you create a dead space where sickness grows inside that space. That's why most people have to keep their windows open because the sunlight comes in and it helps to bring restorative properties and kill off things. But if your house is full of biophotons, it's already upkept. So it's just one of those things where you begin to really question the way that the world was designed when you begin to see the way that it could have been designed. But we didn't know what we didn't know, now we do. So now we get to begin to change that. That's what Void Spaces Technology's whole premise is to show the world what is possible so that they can then take that possibility and create something even greater. Because we know that we're not the best. We just know that we know something that a few people don't yet. And if we can teach that, then everyone else can create even greater things and then even greater things and then even greater things until eventually the world that we all came for is made manifest.
Jason, when you have indoor plants, Do they not produce biophotons when they're inside?
They do, but the AC current of your house actually kills them.
Wow. And does the source seed water help with those? Because my plants have loved the source seed, like
Yeah,
just like they've even changed color, like they just are so happy.
yeah.
But,
So when a
does that
plant goes,
they're still getting killed
no,
because
the
they're
plants aren't
inside?
getting killed. The biophotons do.
Yeah.
So I don't know the exact ratio of the DC current and the AC current and how much they kill off, but you would have to create enough biophotons that per second weren't being killed at the ratio that the
Mm.
DC current and AC current are killing off things. So it's very difficult. I actually finished the product model. We're going to be launching it sometime this year, hopefully. But they're these little stickers, and you stick them on anything that has an alternating current, and immediately it changes that excess current that's causing a feedback into biophotons. So you stick them on all the light sockets, and your entire house becomes pure biophotons. And then with the biophoton paint that we've already designed, what happens is you actually create a space where the excess current in your house is no longer damaging your house, and you can build it however you want.
Mm. That's amazing. One thing I have noticed, and I asked you around this, is I had a BioShield, which was the anti-radiation thing that you plug in. And when you first plug it in, I know I personally got really tired as it, the first few days. And then when I got the PNR, I don't know, I guess it was just intuition. I just didn't want it on anymore. But it's made a huge difference by turning it off. And
Yeah.
the PNR, it doesn't make me tired, and there's so much more benefit to it. Obviously, it's a different technology, but it was just an interesting observation that, yeah.
Most technology is designed to nullify. See, this is the biggest issue that I think is out there in science right now. When you create something that's devastating, the go-to is immediately to nullify that devastation instead of to fix the corruption. If we would just acknowledge things as they are as perfection and then improve upon them, things would change so drastically on this planet. It's kind of like what's happening in America. Everybody wants to just destroy the whole system. Well, the system worked. Why not just tweak it and make it better? Why not remove the corruption from the system and then see what happens and then evolve it? That's the way I look at everything in life. When I look at anything in life, I look at it, okay, so this is where it's at. How can I improve upon where it's at without taking away its value? And that's the way that I look at it. So there's a lot of these devices out there that kill off radiation, that do all this stuff with it. And, that had a place, but you're losing a resource. And anytime you kill off something or you go against something, you're actually creating an empty space or a vacuum. And so that vacuum has to be filled. So for me personally, I don't use those anti-radiation things. I actually prefer all those great, wonderful frequencies that are corrupt because I've designed technology that cleans it. We're going to be launching more technology around that as well. But instead of looking for things that, nullify, look for things that transmute. Because that's the key. Understanding that we are capable of alchemy. We're able to take something that is and make it into something better. And free resource is awesome. Like absolutely awesome. I think we're probably going to end up selling like these sheets of the stickers I was selling at like $20 for a whole sheet of them, because people are charging like $300 for something that you can make for like $8. So people are going to get really pissed at us for that. But ultimately, these stickers, if you see like a 5G tower and you stick a few of them on there, now you're transmuting the majority of that 5G into something else.
Amazing.
I mean, you can create a greater world. The trees love them. I don't know how we're going to get them to stick to trees, but when you stick them on a tree, the tree actually grows faster.
Wow.
Because it's feedbacking biophotons into it, which is photosynthesis. So it's actually saving itself from needing the resources of water as much. Like it's crazy what can happen. So when we begin to work with nature instead of against it, everything changes.
Yeah, it's incredible. Jason, what are the powders is it through Void Space or is it a different company?
That's Void Space as well. We're currently partnered with ZP Tech to produce them. They're using my Alchemy, but the reason that I had them do it is because they have an entire giant lab. They're incredibly good at what they do and they're very ethical. So I actually really like Eric. He's the one that runs ZP Tech. And so we're in a partnership with that to create that product for people. But ultimately, that's a monoatomic. So remember I was telling you about needing resources, right? that monoatomic actually teaches your body how to use those resources. So when you pair it with a biophoton generator in any way, shape, or form, what you're creating is an opportunity to get living light within your body, and then also to teach your body what to do with that living light. So everything that I'm doing is basically trying to save 100 years or so in the human evolutionary span, because I realistically think that if you go through phase 1, phase 2, and you begin working with silence, that your body will be able to process, especially if you have something that does create biophotons like a source seed, or you're drinking the water, or you're even just taking a bath in it. That's something that we didn't mention that's incredible. Drop one source seed in a bathtub and enjoy the ride, because that is going to give your full body the external resources it needs to repair your skin. I don't know if you've done it or not, but your skin's usually softer to the touch because all the things that it doesn't need don't have to slough off anymore. It actually begins to clean them inside and out. It's really good for your lymph. If you take a source seed and you do this with it, just rolling it back and forth, you're flooding your lymph system with biophotons. So there's a lot of really cool opportunities that you can do with that, especially if you have like a whole handful of them. It's really fun to play with. Ultimately, like I said, explore, figure out what works for you. I will say it's not ideal to eat them. Don't swallow them if you don't have to. If you accidentally swallow them, it's not going to kill you, but it's not for human consumption for a reason. Your body becomes a biophoton generator, and if you haven't trained, you're going to detox hard. Like, I mean hard, because that's not something that's designed. Like, an 8-dimensional frequency inside your body 24 hours a day for up to 5 days, that can be really intense for people. So my recommendation, definitely not for human consumption. Do not do that. But baths, incredible. Hot tubs, pools, all those things, anything that your body can soak in those biophotons is incredible for you. If you have a foot bath, just put like a thing of water.
You're frozen again, Jason.
Drop a source seed in, put your feet in there, and just let your feet heal. That will be huge. Oh, am I still frozen?
Oh, you are now, yeah.
All right, cool. Let me know when I'm not frozen.
So because I've only got the two source seeds that came with the PNR, so we've ordered the others, but so I've just been putting the water that I've had in my water filter in the bath rather than the PNR itself. So that would still do. Is it like?
Oh yeah, it still helps.
Yeah.
But it's not the same. So if you put an 8-dimensional source seed in the water with your body begins to communicate with the source seed and tell it what it needs. And so that source seed is then flooding different types of biophotons into the water that your body is bioavailable to. It's pretty cool. If you put the PNR in the water with the source seed and yourself, it's insane what happens, because now your divinity is communicating so it's exactly what you need, and then it gives the resource to the PNR, which actually then floods into the water. So it creates a very special kind of water.
Okay. And just
does you can also put the PNR under a glass of water, by the way. I don't know if you've tried this or not, but if you put it symbol up and you put the glass of water on top of it, just let it sit for a little bit, drop a source seed in it, you will get insane water because it's coded specifically 100% for you instead of just water that is bioavailable.
Wow, that's incredible. So Jason, are the phase 1 and phase 2 powders available? Phase 1 is?
Phase 1 is currently available. Phase 2 in silence will become available most likely around the 15th of August.
Could you explain what the...
Getting it made.
Sorry.
Did it freeze again?
No, I think there's just a slight lag between when we speak. But so can you explain what phase 1 and phase 2 do?
Phase 1 is like the lower dimensions of physicality and like mastering those so that you get the minerals and nutrients you need for those. Phase 2 is the higher levels. So it works more on all the way up to the 13th dimensional reality. So it's kind of helping to stabilize all of that. But the average person, they need to start with phase 1. I mean, even if you've never, even if you are what you consider like an enlightened person, I would still start with phase 1. I started with phase 1 because it's helpful. And it only takes like 5 grams to get out of phase 1. So, maybe 10 for some people, depending on if you've never worked with any type of monoatomic or light-based technology, then, maybe it'll take 10 grams. But to create a stable foundation to build on is worth every single penny that you spend, and also extra time that it will take, because it will take time. If you are using the source code phase 1 only, once in the morning, once at night is usually a really good way to do it. You can take it throughout the day. if you are stressed, it does help with stress a tremendous amount. Your body, when it's stressed, it kind of gets stuck in a cycle. But when you take the powder, it breaks that cycle for most people. So I would say that that can be very helpful as well. But if you take it in the morning and you take it at night right before bed, usually you can go through that in within a few months and have mastered what you need to master.
Okay, awesome. And can you explain the silence?
Silence is one that I don't think I'll ever master in this lifetime. I mean, it's literally designed as the highest octave of the light particles, so that when you take it, it enhances meditation, it enhances clarity. It's like it's insane, to be honest with you. I'm actually still blown away by that one. That one was actually created first. So when I used to do world projects, we would take silence to stabilize the higher currents, because we would be working with time magic at levels that is just far greater than what the human body could handle. And so we would use source seeds as kind of a cheat code, and we would use the powder as well, so that we could get the biophotons and everything we needed, so that we could actually handle the world projects. Because we were being asked to transmute things that the average human being can't even conceive of. And we were trying to do it as a team. And so you kind of need those extra resources, which is why these tools were developed in the first place.
Awesome. And Jason, you did mention a date, I think, with one of your recent lives around when we'll start seeing other technology emerge, or when that can come to light.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the end of September. I'd say probably like a little bit after the 28th to early October. That's when there's going to be a lot more people stepping out with high level technologies. I think we're going to come into a new understanding of free resources, maybe even free energy. That would be incredible. I know that there's going to be some technologies in the medical advances that are going to be coming up as well. So it's going to be a really awesome time.
Awesome. That's cool. I might just have a quick check to see if there's any questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll just go through. So we've got 69 people currently on the live. So welcome to you all. So there's a question here: do biophotons do the same thing as earthing?
Kind of, but not. So earthing is grounding the current of you into the earth and kind of replenishing at the same time. So it's actually really good for inflammation. But biophotons are a bioavailable resource that can be anything. Grass does create that. So there is like a little bit of a biophoton count. But to give you an example, the PNR itself gives off around 100 to 700 biophotons, depending on the level that you've connected with it and unlocked it. So a tree usually gives off around 100. So if you were hugging a tree, like just holding onto a tree, it'd be the same level as the PNR at its basic level. But it's not sustainable to hold a tree for the rest of your life. It's also not sustainable to Earth for the rest of your life, because we live in a world where, you know, there are things that we have to do. And some of those things, like being in a car, for instance, which is usually a dead space zone, when you bring a PNR into the car, non-translation mode, then you actually begin to process as if you're kind of in a forest, which actually helps to stabilize and keeps a lot of the anger at bay. Because when you're in a dead space, you go into lower emotions easier.
Awesome, thank you. Does it matter if you put the source seed in a plastic bottle or glass bottle?
I prefer glass, but the plastic bottle does work just as well.
Okay, cool. And place in the four corners of the house?
Yeah, so that's one of the techniques that I gave for gridding. So you put a source seed in a bottle of water, you shake it up for about 3 minutes, and what happens is you've bonded all the particles, then you set it in the corners of the house, and then you can sit in the middle, and it'll actually start to stabilize an entire field, because they'll feed back into each other, creating walls.
Wow.
Really cool if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you want to create a sacred space. Just take 4 bottles of water and set it down, and you have that field. So it's really cool. But if you do use that technique, it's important that once you remove those, that you give that to the earth, you don't drink it, because you're creating a stable foundation, and that's going to be cleaning the space as well. So you want to dump out that water to the earth, where it can actually transmute that for you into something it needs, that you would actually make your body toxic.
Awesome, thank you. So the phase 1 powder, Jason, it's on a different website, is that right? Not Void Space Technology.
Currently, it is on zptech.com, I think it is, and the discount code for it is MTV013.
Okay, thank you.
So you get a discount, and it kind of helps you to afford a little bit more of it.
Awesome. And just one more here. Is the silence powder you mentioned, Jason, is that the one Jason mentioned he created with All He Knows?
Yeah. That's one of the best ones I think I'll ever make.
Okay.
It's incredible. And it goes live August 15th as well. So we're going to be launching phase 2 and silence, because when you get to phase 2, you can start working with silence pretty easily.
In August, did you say? Sorry.
Yeah, August 15th is our hopeful day of launch. We're going to try to launch sooner than that, but it takes time to print labels. So.
Okay. Are you allowed to, not allowed, but can you mention anything about what's next? Like any other emerging technology in the pipeline?
Yeah. These are patches that help you get more sleep, deeper sleep. So you can get like 3 hours of sleep and end up getting 8 hours of sleep.
Wow.
We did an MIT study with them, and what happens is it actually drops you down into like REM much faster. So it's actually pretty cool. These will probably launch soon. I don't know when, but we've got them done. So now it's just really about getting the packaging and deciding when it's time to share them. The Grow Pro will be launching in September. This thing you just stick on a water hose on, and you can water plants, and they're basically like source seeds, except coated specifically for plants. So what this does is it cleans up the water, and it basically takes care of it. The other cool thing about what we've noticed with it is insects that eat the plants, like that you would normally need pesticides for, they tend to not eat the plants at all.
Wow.
Like our harvest, like I said, and then we also got like 3 times what we would usually get from our harvest. So the test study was incredibly well. The other thing that's really cool is it's so much living. Like I had a migraine headache the other day. Like I was like not good at all. And I ate a piece of the cantaloupe, and my migraine went away like that, because it was energized and coated, and it was exactly what my body needed. And that was kind of what I was hoping the fruit would do. So it was really cool to see that we actually got what we thought we were going to get. So yeah, we're going to be launching that one hopefully in September. If everything goes well, we might be able to launch it sooner. This one's just a packaging thing again. Like that's the struggle, is like trying to get the boxing and stuff, especially during this pandemic. It's hard to get anything done. So we've got a lot of projects, a lot of things that are really cool that we're hoping to get out into the world, but it's going to be a bit. So
yeah, that Grow Pro, and just how you were saying the energy of the fruit retains for such a long time. Like how amazing, even just the export and things like that, right? Like
yeah, I'm actually going to be negotiating and talking with a lot of the very famous business companies out there to try to get them to work with this kind of technology so that their food lasts longer. Because we throw away so much stuff out there, and we use so many preservatives and things that we don't necessarily need if we created an energetic bond that could stabilize the food. You know what I mean? So, I mean, the fruit that should be bad, that's like 2 weeks old, that's in my fridge, is still as fresh as it was on day one. So that's not supposed to happen, especially when you cut up a cantaloupe.
That's
Right?
incredible.
It literally tastes just like it did on day one. Retain the taste, everything, 2 weeks later. So we're going to be doing more tests with the fruit to kind of get a sense for what energized fruit it does. You know, we're going to play with other things. We've given them out to a few people out there that own farms and other things so that we can get more experiential research on it. Just gonna kind of have to see what we get with it. But if it's anything like what happened with my harvest, I'm gonna just be like blown away by the research. So
yeah, even just the seeds of it, like resourcing the seeds from that must make a big difference as well, right? Not just
yeah. The coolest part about this though, like this thing is once and you're done. Like you never need another one in your entire life. You buy one of them and you stick it on a water hose and you're done. Like imagine never needing fertilizer, never needing pesticides ever again. And alone this thing, and we're going to be selling them at $88 a piece. So like anyone can afford it. It's designed this way so that anyone's life can be better. We could sell these at like thousands of dollars like our competitors, but why? It doesn't cost that much to make. $1,000, that's ridiculous. So anyway, we like to make things affordable. We don't have to, but we want to. So it's just one of those things. But yeah, those will be $88. I don't know what we're going to be selling these for. I think it's probably like $20 a box or something, but it really depends on what we end up coming up with. I wish I could show you the stickers, but I ended up using all of them because they were just too much fun. Because you stick them on a phone, and your phone becomes this gift to your body all of a sudden. instead of like nullifying it, like the EMF patches, they nullify it so it does nothing. It doesn't hurt you, doesn't help you. But these like make it like a generator, like a
Wow.
gift to your body. So you like hold your phone, you're like, I like holding my phone now. I like sitting in front of my computer now. So, that's going to be, I think that's probably going to be one of our best sellers, honestly, because everyone can use those. You can go out, stick them on trees, you can stick them on your computer, stick them on your phone, you can stick them on your light sockets, anything you have in the world. And I think that that's really cool. So.
That is awesome. I'll just have a quick scan, Jason, and then if there's anything else. So Jess has asked, would the GoPro be the same as structured water to drink for humans?
Sort of. We are working on a human one. The FDA is a very difficult thing to get over with that. So again, this is not for humans. This is designed and coded specifically for plants. It does work for humans, but it's not coded for humans. So we are kind of like plants in a lot of ways. That is true. And this will work to structure water, but it's still not the same. Like the source seed is coded. So if you drop that in water, again, legally, I'm not allowed to tell you this. So I'm saying with my own experience, when you drop a source seed in water and you drink it, it's designed for humans. Like those codes, as 8-dimensional biophotons, that's designed by me as a human for me as a human. This is designed specifically for plants, and animals actually can handle it really well too. So it's good for your cats and stuff. But ultimately, this is not designed for humans as much as it's designed for nature itself. This was our way of trying to get rid of fertilizers and pesticides in the world, because a lot of that runs off into the ocean. And one of my major goals in this lifetime is to clean up the ocean. So that's actually the Clean Water Initiative, which is also an Earth Change thing that we'll be launching hopefully at the end of this year. I mean, we're going to try to. Crystallized root movement's our first one. But ultimately, tools like this are just good for the environment, which is one of the reasons why we're selling it at $88 instead of several thousand. Because it's just ridiculous to charge something that much for something that doesn't cost that much, that actually improves the quality of life for every human being and the earth itself. Like that. So anyway.
But how amazing would you, if they had that on the hydro systems and the water supply and stuff?
Yeah, water sprinkler systems.
Wow.
I can't wait to. This one's not designed for that. We're in the phase of trying to create one for like putting on to water sprinkler systems. We're going to build one for houses that you can like plug into your house so that the water that comes off is full of biophotons. My plan is to work with 8-dimensional source seeds and to put them in there so that you're actually showering in biophotons. Awesome. So not only in that, and then also maybe create like a shower head part of it, so that you can actually have the same kind of technology as the biodynamic fence, so that when the air blows through to create the separation of the water so that it comes out as a shower, in the space between the water is biophotons, so you get water and biophotons. It's just some of the ideas I'm kind of playing with.
Jason, what about, what if you put source seeds in a paint? Like
that will create a bio paint for sure. It doesn't create a biodynamic paint, but it does create a bio paint. So it will be flooded with biophotons, and a lot of the properties is there. It's powerful. Like your house for a few months will be like vibing like you can't imagine. The only thing is it's not something that's sustainable yet. We're in the process of creating like a little tiny coin or a disc, or maybe even a little tiny source seed, but not actual source seed, that's programmed differently, so that it can actually teach the paint particles what I already do. So like the biodynamic paint that I built is not something that we can recreate without me hand coding it right now. But I'm in the process of, like, I've got like 3 more things I've got to solve. And if I can do that, then we'll have these little tiny things you can drop in paint, and it will flood the paint with the technology and the lesson so that the paint can actually upkeep the frequency forever. That way you would actually never need to repaint the house every few months, which to me is not sustainable because it costs a lot to paint houses. So until I can figure out how to do that, I'm not actually going to be selling the paint codex to people, because it just doesn't make sense. I will say though, dropping a source seed in paint is amazing for the first few months for sure.
Awesome. Jason, is there anything else that you want to add or talk about?
There's a lot of really cool things coming out, and as they come out, you're going to get more and more hope, and you're going to feel more and more happy about being on Earth. Just know that you're not alone in the stuff that you're feeling right now. A lot of people feel depressed. A lot of people are feeling like that hopelessness because they're looking at the world and they're giving it the value. Don't give the world the value. Give yourself the value. Like, The world is crazy right now, but that's because we're at an end point. And the world has to end as we know it so that it can begin in the way that we came for. So you're going to see a lot of things come up over these next few months, these next 3 months particularly, that is going to be pretty chaotic and might seem like we've lost. Like, oh, well, there's no way we can come back from this. But there's no way that we can come back from this with the technology that you know about. I'll tell you that. But the technology that is out there, the technology that is coming, it's so far greater than anything that you can conceive of right now that it can easily right the ship. So we might look like we're capsizing, but we're not. So just don't worry too much with the world. Work on what's in front of you. And if whatever's in front of you to deal with is the world, that's cool too. But work on acceptance, because if you can accept the world for what it is, then you can begin to understand why it is. And then you can be the change to make it different. So just remember that as you move forward, okay?
Thank you. And Jason, I'll post the link to Earth Change as well, so people can make a donation or they can fill out a form to be involved when you need that support, etc.
Let me talk about Earth Change for a second then, if you're gonna do that. So first of all, Earth Change hasn't launched yet. We're still in the process of getting a lot of things. We are a 501c3, so we are legal and able to take donations, and they are taxable donations. So that's really cool for all of y'all out there. There are 3 initiatives right now. Your Business Matters, which is the very first one we're going to be launching, and that's going to be to help small business owners who are had things happen in the riots or are just having a hard time because of the lockdowns and things that are going on. We're going to be contributing to try to help, because Team Humanity includes businesses. Businesses are part of our economy, which our economy is actually what helps us to live in this world. So they're not getting all the help they need. And so we're going to step up and we're going to try to help in that way. The cool part about Earth Change is I'm the CEO of it right now, and I've chosen not to take any type of payment whatsoever for the first 3 years so that we could do what we need to do. On top of that, when I do take payments, that will never come out of people's donations. I don't know if we're the first, but the goal is we're going to be one of those 100 for 100. So if you give $100 to the Clean Water Initiative, $100 will go to the Clean Water Initiative. Me personally, MTVO, and a few other organizations have agreed to pay the administrative cost so that we don't have to need you guys to pay the administrative cost, so that that money that you give goes directly to what you want to help. And then we're also going to be showing photos of what you actually helped. We're going to be talking about it. We're going to be interacting with it. For those of you who have no money, what you can do is you can actually send your love and support. That's huge. The crystallized root movement, we're going to be posting trees soon because we already planted 70 of them. And those trees, if you don't have money and you can't support the initiative, you can pray for those trees. You can send love to those trees, and they're going to be images. So you can actually sit there and you can send love to it. And eventually we're going to have a little way for you to like put a little heart there that actually acknowledges that you sent love to it, right? And it's going to be a really fun interactive page where people can come and play. So it's not just about receiving donations as much as it's about us as Team Humanity working together to create the change. And that's the ultimate goal of Earth Change, is to create this place, a platform for change, as we call it, because we know that we're going to be working with tons of nonprofits all over the world to create change, because we don't know everything. We definitely aren't the best one there is. And it's not about that. It's not about being the best nonprofit. It's about being a nonprofit that's working with all the other nonprofits in a collaboration, because that's what humanity is good at. Humanity is incredible at collaboration. If we actually got rid of the idea of competition and just came into collaboration and said, hey, you want to plant trees, I want to plant trees, we have a budget, you don't have a budget, you have the resources to plant the trees, let's work together, trees would get planted. But instead it's like, well, I have to plant 1 million trees on myself because, you know, I agreed to 1 million trees and you're planting 1 million trees and I can't help you because I got to plant my 1 million trees. What? No. You want to put source seeds under your trees? Yeah, we'll help you pay for those trees. Let's do this. And so there's a new type of humanity, a new way of looking at it emerging in this world that is collaboration. And it is incredible. I've been meeting with so many awesome people who want to collaborate, who have the projects, who either have the resources or have the manpower or have the know-how. And together we're creating this collaboration opportunity to change the world. And it's incredible. So Earth Change is just one of the many factors that is going to help that. And if you have one of those many factors, feel free to message support@earthchange.org, because we're always looking for people that want to collaborate with us to help us get what we want to get done worldwide. I mean, we're going to be doing all kinds of things on this world. So if you have ideas, you have initiatives that you want to get started, we're also open to those. The three initiatives that we're starting with, Your Business Matters, Crystallized Root Movement, and Clean Water Initiative, are just the first three. We're open to whatever we need to do in this world to help the world be the change. So
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. Cool. I don't think there's no more questions come through. There's lots of comments, but not specific ones.
cool.
We've got 72 people on the live now, so hello to everyone.
Ultimately, we are the change that we've been looking for. We just have to be willing to embody it.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Jason, do you have anything else you'd like to say?
No, I think we covered a lot today, actually.
Yeah, we did. It's been amazing.
Now people at least have the Q&A for the PNR and other stuff. We will be hopefully releasing the QRs eventually, which is something like this, the quantum battery that you can basically use to flood the space, which is really great. It's not biophotons in the same way, which is kind of cool. It is a bioavailable resource, but it's really just for technology that is etheric so that it can actually strengthen that. So one of the QRs in a space with those 4 water bottles like I talked about, it just makes those water bottles about 10 to 15 times stronger.
Wow.
So it's a battery. They're incredible. We used it to build the biodynamic fence, so it's been really fun. And for those of you that don't know what the biodynamic fence is, you can check out my wall. There's a picture of it. It's pretty fun to just stare at that for like a little bit and just kind of like travel because there's so much energy coming off of it.
Yeah, cool. Jason, in one of your, I can't remember if it was again at one of your lives or whether it was on Discord, but you were going to have the center opening in November. Is it still?
I wish. The virus kind of delayed us a little bit, so we're still kind of waiting. We're hoping the grand opening will be in May now.
Next year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The soft opening might happen in December, meaning that we might actually start doing business out there and starting to have people come out. But like the grand opening, you don't ever do it on day one of the building opening because it's dangerous. You don't know what you don't know, and we have a lot to learn still. I will say it is an incredible thing. I wish I had some of the pictures here. Do I? Well, I mean, this is like the first floor. So, you know, we're coming closer to the building phase, which I have to acknowledge. But this is a giant studio for 55 people and executive suite. Then we're gonna have like a swimming pool out here and some other things. So, you know, we're in the process of building the center, which again, for anyone that doesn't know, Center for Expansion is our other nonprofit. Our goal is to build 55 of them around the world so that there will be these amazing educational centers for people to come and teach classes on love donation so that everyone has access equally to the information. And this is kind of our goal for the future, is to create an opportunity, because wisdom should be free. It should be, like, absolutely 100% should be free, but time should never be free. And that's something that I think is where a lot of people will disagree with me. That's okay, you don't have to. Ultimately, the Center for Expansion project is creating an opportunity for wisdom to be free, for you to go and on love donation see the greatest teachers in the world, just all over the world. We're going to build 55 of them all over the world. So this is just kind of a huge project for me, something I've been really wanting to work on since I was a little kid. And this is our very first one that we're building here in Anna, Texas. So it's going to be really awesome. And I welcome anyone that wants to come and visit it whenever it's open. It's going to be a really great place to be. So.
Yeah, incredible. Sounds incredible. Absolutely. There was a question, but it's gone now from me. Anyway, that's okay. I'm sorry if there are people who have asked questions, I may have missed them. We will put the links to things that Jason has spoken about in here, and I know Jason will go through and answer any questions as well up on his wall. So if anything's been missed.
If you ask questions under this post on my wall, I'll respond to them. I have a hard time doing it on videos because the videos get shared and shared and shared and shared, and then there's lots of questions, and then they update as the video keeps going forward, and so I just don't do it. I do it on my wall though, so if you do have questions, feel free to ask. And yeah, thank you so much, Natasha, for
thank you
to communicate around these, because I know that you're not the only one that had lots of questions around the technology. Because again, like, I don't write manuals. I do the technology and then I move to the next thing in front of me, do the technology, the next thing in front of me. So I stay pretty busy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jason. It's been so helpful, and it's definitely helped me. So thank you. Thank you so
Oh,
much for your time.
one last thing. I forgot. This is really cool. So the app version of coursework that's actually going to make it 500 times stronger. It's going to
Wow.
be so incredible. It's kind of like the app version of Activation Station. It's like revolutionary. It launches in August. So we're actually hoping to launch it by the middle to end of August. And I'll be doing a video around that, but it's going to be awesome. So I'm very happy about that. That's the other thing I would love to celebrate today. I
Yeah,
just
that's
found
amazing.
out about that.
And just so people know, Jason, so it's when people are doing coursework through MTVO, is it rather than the Facebook container? Is the app
It'll be an
replace that?
app. Yeah.
Yeah, wow,
You'll
awesome.
go to mtvo.org and when you're logged in as a user, you'll actually see your course. And it has videos for every practice so that you can actually learn about the practices and understand them, and it'll actually keep it up to keep. So like when you click a timer, it'll start the timer. That way
Oh.
it's all built in. I mean, it's taken us a very long time. They actually told us it was impossible. When we handed them what we wanted, they were like, that's impossible. And it's like, nothing is impossible if I can dream of it. So then they were able to solve it. And I love our app design team because I hand them impossible things all the time and they come back to me a few months later and go, we figured it out. I'm like, all right, cool. So start it. Because this is the coolest part about programming logic. Like anything you can think of is doable. You just have to figure out how to do it with the coding. And that's the complicated part. But I love our team. They're incredible at what they do. So
Cool. And will it do increments as well with the timing?
when you say increments, what do you mean?
Sorry, so like if you had to do 10 of something, it would count that you've done it 3 times. Yeah.
And it'll also tell you whether you passed or failed. So whenever
Wow.
you actually miss practices, it goes to
Mm.
your total score. And if you fail, then it'll actually tell you so that you don't have to keep going beyond that. And it actually messages the facilitator and says, this person failed this practice. Do you want to let them progress forward? It's actually a really cool system. It will keep everyone very flowing. And also the activations, instead of being done off app, will be being
Mm.
done on app. They'll be inside your course container. So we really thought of everything that we could think of with that. And then hopefully a few months later, maybe in September, maybe October, the sheet system, because you know how we do sheets and everything for coursework. Because for those of you that are like, wow, those courses are too expensive, there's no way I can afford it. Most of us do payment plans with no interest. So we call these sheets. And the sheet system is actually going to be going live on Activation Station. So people will be able to request technology on sheets and all kinds of
Wow.
things. So we're actually going to make it possible. I'm very passionate about this. We're making it possible for every single person in the world to afford the support if they need to. They need that extra support there. So this is going to be really cool. And I'm also very happy because the sheet system is going to go on live and I'm going to be able to take all the sheets that I have and put them on there so that I don't have to do math every single month anymore. That's
Mm.
going to be very fun for me.
Yeah, wow, that just sounds amazing. I'm excited. That's
Yeah.
cool.
I mean, it's a very big update. Big update. Like nothing like anyone's ever done. I think we'll actually have the most expensive coursework platform in the world right now because we've
Wow.
spent a whole lot on this and a lot of time and resources. So it's going to be really awesome, and it's automated, which is going to make things so much more smooth for people. Facilitators will be able to actually handle more students because it'll be easier on them. Because holding
Mm.
that container is hard. Like we're in that container with you for 24 hours a day, every day. So
Mm.
everything you're going through, we have to clear ourselves so that we can be an example of clarity so that you can learn from your divinity with clarity in between instead of the space being held and confused and chaotic. So with the container being online, what it actually does is it makes it easier for us to see the things instead of them just being in us. It's like we're actually able to observe it and like a movie basically. So I think that most of the facilitators will be able to handle up to 5 more students, which will be really nice
Wow, that's
because we
amazing.
are getting to that point. You know, in September, MTBO is going to be promoted in a pretty large way soon, and we're looking at probably another 5 to 600,000 new users. So we're trying to prepare for that by creating enough stability in those things that we can actually help those people.
Mm.
But there's a lot of really cool things coming up with MTBO as well. We have stay mode, which is stays are one of my favorite things that we do. It's time magic and bending time and space so that you can do stuff. I just came out of a stay where we did 42 years in a single day. That was super fun. Yeah.
Can you
So
explain that, Jason, the stays?
Yeah, stay programs are where you and a facilitator enter into a container and you're able to receive the information about 100 to 200, sometimes even 300 times stronger than you would just on the app. And they're holding space for you in that container. So we're actually going to be building something called stay mode into Activation Station, where you can set up times with a facilitator to be focused with technology while being in that integrative container so that you can process through reality much faster. We'll also have them obviously in person as well. That's one of the cool things about the stay mode that we're really hoping eventually, when you have all these centers all over the world, we're going to have these little areas where you can come and do stay programs in person with these facilitators and like be in this node of reality that's just like heaven on earth. Because that's what we're building, 13 dimensional cities basically all over the world. So it's going to be just, the future is incredible. I every time that I look at the future, I'm just like, oh, okay, no, get present, get present, get present in front of me right now, in front of me right now. Because the future won't happen if I don't do what's in front of me right now. Like we've got to build all these little things, but the features, we've been working on these features for a very long time. And now that we're at this point where we're getting to release them, it almost looks like we're releasing them simultaneously. It's because we've spent the last 2 years preparing for this. So all these technologies like the patches, like the GoPro, all these things are coming out because people have been working on these for years. And we've been waiting for this time to finally the world be ready to know about this level of technology. It's like the PNR. I mean, that took 5 years. So this program that we're working with the Center for Expansion, that's 10 years. It took me 10 years to do that. Earth Change was 10 years. 10 years of development to get it to a point where we were ready as a planet to be the change. So this is a time of just so much hope for me. The fact that we're ready to like embody at this level, that we're ready to bring this level of technology and tools to the world, it's just like, what? How? How did we get here? And then you look back and you're like, oh, that's how we got here.
Incredible. That's so amazing. I'm just curious, when you hold containers in a Facebook group, do you have to do a lot of other work around the distortion of Facebook itself?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't mind doing it. And the reason I don't mind doing it is because the containers being held on Facebook actually supports the clearing up of Facebook. So if I can help clean up Facebook because it's what's in front of me right now, then I'll do that. But I am very much looking forward to having the containers on MTVO because the energy will be so much clearer. But that doesn't affect you as a person. That affects the facilitator. Because that facilitator that's doing it on Facebook is having to hold the energy of Facebook over here while still holding the space for you. And so it's kind of takes up about double what it should. We've tried it on Google Docs as well. It just didn't do as much of an impact for the world as what we wanted. So there are some facilitators that do it on Google Docs though.
Random question. Do spaces like Facebook hold their own nexus?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's one of the things with social media platforms that people didn't anticipate. That's one of the reasons why you get some of the experiences you get on Facebook and other places. They say that social media has become the toilet bowl of the internet. And I think that that is pretty accurate because if you look at the energy of the people who created the certain things, the nexus that they held is pretty low. It's one of the reasons why I don't ever get on Facebook without my PNR anymore is because like I can feel the restriction of what I want to do if I'm not in my own nexus. The good news is when you're in your house, you're still like you have competing nexuses, so you're still able to stabilize. You'll find that if you're outside, you actually are more positive on Facebook and other things, which is pretty interesting as well.
Yeah.
So where you enter the nexus matters a lot, and that's kind of a fascinating thing there.
Wow, that's incredible. I'm glad I asked.
Yeah.
Awesome. Jason, do you have time if I just quickly scan to see if anyone's asked any questions?
What time is it? Yeah, I still have plenty of time.
I don't know if there are any, but sorry, so there's Kunam. I'm sorry if I've pronounced your name wrong, but you've said you've asked 3 questions. I'm sorry if I've missed them. So does the piano help detox the body? Was one of the questions.
I can't say that it does. And the reason I can't say that it does is because, again, it's between you and your divinity. Whatever your body needs to go through, the PNR will help to accelerate that. And when you first get one, they're at about 5%. And when you attune them, they get up to about 15% right away. So that's more integration ratio, which allows you to process things faster in essence. So if your body needs to detox, it will detox at a 15% usually easier rate than it needed to prior to. So that's actually kind of the cool thing with it.
Okay. Pamela's asked, how long do you leave the water bottles in the corners of the house for?
I would probably change it at least once a year.
Oh, okay. Um,
Again, don't drink.
Rachel's, sorry.
I said again, don't drink it. For those of you
Mhm.
that missed that, don't drink that water. That water is being cleaned up. The space is pulling all that density into that bottle, so definitely don't drink that water.
Okay. And Rachel had just asked around attuning. She said she's attuned her PNR twice. I'm assuming that's okay.
You can attune it as many times as you want, but it doesn't really change much. I mean, in theory it could, but it's not something that like the amount of difference of it is the same thing if you held it in your hand for like 3 minutes. So
okay. Jason, I think I remember reading on the FAQ that if someone else picks up your PNR, you should reattune it to yourself. Is that right?
if they pick it up, then you wash it. You do the defrag thing, which is 33 seconds under cold water, just back and forth while the cold water, and then that's fine. And if they pocket it, meaning they wear it, then you reattune it. But you would want to wash it and then reattune it, right? Like it's not just reattune it right away because you want to clean it off, break up any of the codes that don't belong to you, and then put it back in your pocket. That's the only negative consequence to owning a PNR, is that it is possible for people to pick it up or it to fall out of your pocket, all these other things. But again, this is important. It doesn't hurt you as a person. Even if you didn't clean it, it's just not as strong of a value that you could gain from it. So that's the reason that we put that in there, is because when you reattune it and you clean it and you reattune it, you're actually bringing it back on alignment 100% with you again where you are. So that's actually more helpful than having fragments of someone else inside there. Even though those fragments aren't still going to be broadcast to you, it's going to weaken because that's going to have to push against those fragments and hold them. So it's just not as valuable.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And the source seed water, etc., that's all fine for animals and dogs, and you can put
animals
under.
tend to absolutely love it. Again, that's something I've observed. It's not something I'm making a medical claim or a legal claim over.
And the source seeds, Jason, they're not just a one-off. Someone's just asked that question. You can reuse them.
Oh yeah, no. The only thing that will end the cycle of the source seed is if you smash it with a hammer, and I highly recommend not doing that. I mean, you can run them over, and I've seen them still work. So they usually just fly whenever you run them over in a car. But the point is, with a hammer, if you smash it, you're actually going to be breaking it down into a molecule level on levels, and it destroys the coating. It's a safety mechanism. If it were to stay intact and you crushed it, it could create a really bad explosion because you're working with an atomic level. I mean, it's not good. So.
Okay, and it's totally fine to wear the PNR. It doesn't make any difference if it's inside something, like a leather.
As long as it's warm. So like if you have a necklace and you put it on, whether it's outside or inside, it is irrelevant. If it's in your pocket, that's fine. A lot of women put it in their bra because they don't have pants that have pockets and still don't understand why this is the world that we live in, but that's okay. That being said, ultimately, like I said with the PNR as well, like you really can't destroy it. I'm working on a codex right now for the PNR so that you can will it to your children. Because what a lot of people don't understand is like, I'm only going to make PNRs until I'm dead, and then they'll never exist again. So this technology is probably going to be viable on this planet for thousands of years. So it needs to be something that is like taken care of and handed down. Because I mean, that's what they're going to be used for eventually. So I have to create a technology that allows it to zero out so that it can be passed on to other people. But I haven't figured out how to do that yet. Hopefully I'll figure it out in my lifetime. Because otherwise, when I die, then there won't be any more.
I'm just taking it in. yeah, that would be a shame. Absolutely. Okay, I don't think there's any more questions. None coming through anyway that I can see on here. Jason, thank you so much for your time and all of this information. It's just been incredible. I know it's been really helpful for many people, so thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, I look forward to watching it over again and seeing what I said that helped people and stuff. That'll be fun. The last thing, the source seeds, they also will be here as long as I'm here. And when I leave, they'll still be here on the planet, but I don't know if we'll be able to remake them. We're still in the process of trying to figure that out as well. That being said, when you throw one in the ocean or lake, it's there forever. So that's something that's very magical and powerful that you get to be part of in this world. And if you really want to give back to the world, that's one of the reasons why you only need one really as a person, right? Up to 100 before you get diminishing returns. So like if you want to take a bath and you put 100 in the bath and you actually put 101 in the bath, you'll notice that the quality of each up to that 100 is pretty powerful, but then it becomes lower with each one after that. So you really only need 100. And people are always like, well, why are you selling 1,111? I'm like, well, one, you can sell them at $1 a seed and get some profits. You actually can make some money and you can help people that couldn't afford a larger batch of them. But two, my goal is to give humanity the tools it needs to change the world. Because my job isn't to change the world by myself. So these technologies, the reason we created Source Seeds was there was a top secret project called the Light Amplification Project that started in early 2008. And it was to amplify sacred sites and to unlock the true value of them. Many people don't know that sacred sites activate on certain days, and most of the time they're just offing that activation. So it's just energy that's still residual, right? But to attune and to change those sacred sites for the longest time, groups would go on those activation days so that the portal would be open, they could adjust the coding, and then they would move on with their lives. That was efficient to a point. But then we realized that what those sacred events did, those alignments, was they created an overflow of resources, which turned on the site. So we began to think of ways that we could turn on the site during days that weren't necessarily alignment with the stars and everything, so that we could adjust. That's why we created Source Seeds, so that we could create enough biophotonic shift. And back then we were using fourth dimensional Source Seeds, and we would only need like 100 of them for an entire month-long project. So now we've mailed out, I think it's almost 20,000 Source Seeds now.
Wow.
That's more than we used in 10 years. I just want you to understand, like in 10 years of top secret projects behind the scenes, we used 20,000 Source Seeds. That's it. It's all we used worldwide, all over the world, oceans, everything. 20,000. We have now sent out that many. So, and these are 8th dimension, these are 4th dimension. This is why the world's changing, not just because of the Source Seeds, but there are other projects doing things that are similar. This technology is some of the greatest and most powerful technologies we have available to create resources for the world to transform. Because if you have the resources, you can change. But if you don't have the resources, it's very hard to change. So all these seeds that you're getting, give them back to the world in whatever way you feel called to, but know that you're making a huge difference in this world. That's the reason why we're selling them so cheap, is because we want people to give them to trees, to plant them under things, to like do everything they can with them, throw them in the ocean, do ceremonies with them, bless things, throw them, because what you're doing is you're creating a massive change in the world, because these are immortal technology, meaning until the day that they are smashed with a hammer, they will give off the frequency that they need to give off. So if you throw one in the ocean, it's very unlikely that that will get smashed by a hammer. Just saying. Because if you hit it with a boat, like let's say a boat sinks and pushes on it, it's just going to push it into the ocean depth. Like it's not going to crush it. It's not going to break it. So when you do that, you're contributing biophotons to every living creature in the ocean, all the way across the pond. So if I drop one in California, I'm rippling all the way to Australia and New Zealand. And it's infinite. So the potentials are infinite as well. It's incredible what you can do. But it's not about us as one group doing all the work. It's about us as a team humanity, having access to the tools and choosing to do good with them.
Yeah.
The other thing is if you try to do bad with them, like you try to destroy or derail the ascension with them, you'll notice that they zero out and they don't work anymore. Because I made sure that they could only be used to help humanity, never to harm or hinder it. There's a very strong code in there with that. Same thing with the PNRs for people that wanted to try to use them to hinder agendas. It doesn't work. So thank you for the $111 that you gave me for the PNR. Your PNR won't do any good.
Clever.
You order billions of them, won't matter.
Awesome.
We're at a place in this ascension process where helping to heal humanity, never to harm or hinder it, is a core foundation principle in everything, and the way that I do everything. And also I live by another law, which is no one is free until each are free and all are freeing each other. My one biggest goal that I have in this lifetime is to give everyone the same opportunities that I've had, to show all of the things that are top secret to the world, and to really create an opportunity to have dialogues and discussions on how we can collaborate to change the world even faster in the direction of that ascension, or that positive value, or heaven on earth. And I'm fortunate to have been given enough life to get to this point where I get to actually see those dreams coming true. I mean, the tram it's already moved like, I think, 1 point something percent this month, and that was in the last week because it finally moved. And just seeing people's financial means of elevate up, right? Like, I'm just very happy to see that we're in a point in the world where the things that no one else has access to now, people have access to. Are you on the tram? Do you even know?
No, so I've got as far as I've got is the wallet link I think you'd sent me, and I signed up for that. But I actually got it it's in my diary today. I blocked out time this afternoon to watch some of the crypto videos, and I've listened to the one on Discord, and I just really want to get into all of that. So yeah.
So the average person, when they invest, they get like 3% return or less for the average person. Rich people, they get 10 to 20% usually. And the tram has moved at 18 point something percent for the year so far, and we're only 8 months in. So we've already created an opportunity for people that's better than most of the rich people have access to, and the year's not even over yet. And that is something that I've just dreamed my entire life, to create wealth opportunities for people. And I'm about to cry because like I just everything I've worked really hard to see make manifest is coming together now. The cryptocurrency I've waited my entire life to see made manifest is made, and I met the founder of it, I think it was yesterday, and he gets it. He built it ethically, he built it stably, he built it 150 years. Like, he future-proofed it for 150 years, built it with predictive analytics. He knew exactly what he was doing to create the cryptocurrency that was built on ethics and standards. And the frequency of the company is equal to MTVO's frequency. That is like life-changing to me. So the final piece of the puzzle that I've been waiting for is the cryptocurrency, like the medical, all the other things I've watched. I've seen all the pieces come together, and now we have everything we need to move forward as a race to like actually go to where we need to go. And the tram is actually going to be able to trade it. So it will actually be trading this cryptocurrency as it evolves and becomes the #1 in the world. So my life has become a dream that I thought I would never, ever get to live inside of. I just knew it would be, but I never got to like actually feel it. And this last few days has been like just all the pieces perfectly connecting, and more connections and things. And now it's just like, we did it, we did it. It's not only did we dream it, but we actually made it manifest. And it's incredible. And then also like that harvest being 3 times the amount that it should be, like that's 3 times the amount of food, and we're giving it to homeless people. Like, this is the world we live in. Can you imagine if everyone used that? Everyone's harvests were 3 times or larger. That's extra food that could be given to the people that are starving. Like, it's just cool to see all the things coming together and like really creating that.
It is, yeah, it's just so amazing. It's so amazing. Yeah, wow. I'm blown away by all of that.
Do you want to see one of the cantaloupes?
What's that?
Do you want to see one of the cantaloupes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, yeah, give me a sec. All right. So they cut them, which is great, but so we're cutting them to give them to homeless people, but this is gonna make a huge mess. Because it's dripping, because it's so live. Check this out. Do you know much about cantaloupe?
No, I remember I thought it was an animal.
Oh, that's right. Do you see that spine?
Oh, yeah.
It's not supposed to do that.
Huh.
If you look at Cantaloupe, the outside doesn't have this very much because it doesn't get to grow at the level it needs to because it doesn't get the resources. So ours grew a whole
Wow.
nother level of like coding inside of it. And then like just look at the light and that right there.
Yeah.
Like
Um,
it's just insane. So
that's
anyway,
amazing.
I'm very happy with what we created and I look forward to creating more of it. And I get to give this to homeless people. Like
I
how
love
cool is that?
that.
So
Oh, I love that so much. That's incredible.
that's
Awesome.
my world right now. Very happy with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Jason, someone asked if you could explain the tram and is there a link?
Yeah, we can post the link. So the Tram is a cryptocurrency trader that, because by law we couldn't take your currency unless you were an accredited investor, which is this thing that you'll learn about if you become a millionaire. You become this thing called an accredited investor, so you have access to all these opportunities no one else does. Well, I don't like that. So what I did was I created an opportunity for everyone to have equal opportunity to the trade. So what happens is the tram actually trades at the level that you would if you were an accredited investor, but we bypassed it using something called mirror trading. So it actually mirrors the trades that we make, and we give the same percentage that we make with our higher trade volume to you, no matter what you put in. I think the minimum is 50 euros. So if you put 100 euros in and we made 1%, you would make $1, even though we're trading at like a huge volume, and that's why we're having access to these higher percentages, we're still giving equal percentage to everyone across the board because we
Wow.
wanted to create an opportunity for everyone to make the money that they needed to make to evolve in the way they needed to evolve. Now, with anything, there is risk involved in this. However, there's no risk in the sense of we're not going to run away with your money because we can't, because we created it that way on purpose. So if you pay attention to cryptocurrencies, there's a lot of scams out there. And what happens is people put money into this trader thing, and the person either dies or something happens to them, or the market falls or whatever for that person, and they're not able to give the money back to the person. So we wanted to change that. And so what happens is when you do this money in this bot, the money stays in your account. So it mirror trades, but as soon as it trades out, it puts the money back in your account. So what
Mm.
happens is, let's say that you're in at 1 BTC and you get a 0.1% profit margin. Now your account shows that you have 1.01 BTC. So then the next time that it does a trade, it uses that same value and then continues. So that it actually creates accumulating value. It's a cool little opportunity, but you can remove your money at any time. The only way that you would lose money is if you were to cash out of that currency into something else and the currency was lower. And for those that don't understand cryptocurrency fluctuates by up to 10% randomly. So you always want to remove your currency at a high point. And if you are going to do trading or investing in any way, shape, or form, this is the most important thing I can tell you. The most important thing I can tell you. Never invest anything that you can't afford to lose. The reason I love cryptocurrency is the market goes down by 10%, you lost 10%, but you didn't lose it if you hold it, because then it goes up by 10%, you're back to where you were. Like it's just how it goes. So that being said, you never invest more than you can lose. And we also created an opportunity for you to invest euros. And I think soon it'll be US dollars as well. But that allows you to make your trades and then it cashes out your thing and puts it back in euros. So the euros don't go up and down. €1 is €1, right? So when you get, $100 or 100 extra euros, you have that 100 extra euros. It doesn't fluctuate. So we did try to create it where there was an opportunity for you to lose less, opportunity to gain high or lose more, and it creates more stable. So me personally, the money that I know that I'll need like a month from now, I put in as euros, because that way it's amplifying by a few percentage, but at the same time it's stable. The money that I don't care about, that if I lose it, so it's fine, I put in as Bitcoin because Bitcoin fluctuates up and down, and sometimes it's nice. Like right now, it's $11,000. When I bought in, it was only $6,000. So I've made quite a nice little profit per coin. So that's the cool part about me putting it in Bitcoin is I didn't need that money right away. So I just put it in there. But the tram is just a mirror trading algorithm that we have an actual live trader as well as a bot trader so that it actually continues to accumulate value. And right now I think we're at 18.6% for the year.
Wow. So I'm a little bit lost to be honest, but is Tram like a type of wallet?
So that that I understand where you're lost. So it can be considered, well, actually, it can't be considered a wallet because a wallet is where you store the currency. And the tram is just a mirror trading thing. So whenever, let's say that I buy one BTC, and that one BTC or Bitcoin, you buy part of that Bitcoin. When I sell that Bitcoin, you get your part back at the percentage that I sold it at.
Hmm.
But that percentage of Bitcoin, when I buy it, is in your account. So when I sell it, it uses it from your account as well. But you can take out that Bitcoin at any time. So in between trades. This is different than the average person. So there's a lot of opportunities out there that are like get rich quick, and they're very dangerous, and I don't recommend them. The reason that we did it this way is because we wanted it to have very low risk. So this bot actually only trades at like a 1% margin. It's very low, but it also sells and buys, and it uses stop losses and other things so that it doesn't lose a lot. So that's kind of like a really cool opportunity that's built into it. That being said, a wallet is the address that you put the currency in. So Coin Metro, which is what houses the tram, is an exchange that has a wallet in it, and it uses the mirror trader to take money from that wallet and trade it as we trade it, and then it puts it back in that wallet. So we never have access to your wallet. This is important because a lot of the other investments out there do have access to your wallet. In fact, they take your money and you have to get your money back from them. And if they don't want to give you your money back, which is what happens in cryptocurrency all the time, you just lost all your money. And there are so many scams out there that do that. I actually lost over 100 grand to one of those scams.
Oh, wow.
So this is one of the reasons why this is something that I'm very passionate about, is I don't want anyone ever to do that. That sucked. Like that really, really sucked. The good news was it actually wasn't as bad as it could have been, because I got to write off that loss because it was a scam. And so then the next 100 grand that I make, I don't have to pay taxes on. So it's okay. It just still made things more difficult than they needed to be. And I don't think that many people would want that experience. So I wanted to create an opportunity, and I stand by this 100%. Like, I know the founder of Coin Metro. I've met him. He flew out to Texas and sat on the Center for Expansion land with me. We had a really great conversation before I invested with him. Like, I know him. I also know the person who runs the bot, because that's Collective Interest. That's our private equity fund. So I know all about them. And I have no fear in that because I know them. If they did ever screw me, I could literally go to their house. So, and again, I'm not worried about that because I've known them. They're incredible people. We all want to change the world in a good way.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's why we built the tram. That's the first step of this program that we're wanting to create, that's designed to help everyone that wants to have more wealth and be responsible with it have access to it. So this is the first step. There's another one called Altcoin Alert that is a little bit more complicated. I don't really know enough about it. We're going to be doing a talk about it eventually. But that's another really cool thing that's out there that I believe in, that's amazing, that creates more opportunities. And we're just going to keep creating more opportunities because that's the key to life. Like, if you don't have what you need, it's really hard to do what you want. But if you have what you need, it's really easy to do what you want. And then you move forward. And then you need new things. So if we can keep creating opportunities, every time you move forward, you have what you need. And if everyone does that, then we change the world very fast.
Amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm absorbing a lot of this. I'll go back and watch this on the replay as well. But Jason, you guys are just doing so much, just incredible stuff. It's just, I know there's a lot of people there that just, just thank you so much. Like, for me personally, this information and just the tools and the technology that you speak about, it's just helping so many people. And I'm in such deep gratitude for that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Like, I never thought we would get this far, and we did. And we're getting further every day, which is just, it's really incredible. Really incredible. So it was worth every single experience that I had to get to this point. Awesome. So thank you very much for having me on today.
Thank you.
The tram we actually just gave to everyone, so it's on our mtvo.org site, but I can give you the link as well so you can post it under the video.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, we just want to give everything openly to people so they have opportunities. And then if it's in front of you to do it, feel free to do it. If it's not in front of you to do it, don't do it. Definitely don't do it if it's not in front of you. That's my best advice to anyone out there who's listening to anything I'm saying, and you're like, that's not in front of me. Then awesome, don't do it. So, all right, awesome. Well, it is time for me to get ready to go.
Yeah.
So
Thank
you
you
very
so
much
much.
for everything. I love you all, and have a blessed and beautiful one. Bye.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you so much. Bye.